What's up, guys, and welcome back for another Scourge of War Waterloo Headquarters in the Saddle video. Before we get into it here, I just want to give a couple of small little channel updates as we keep going here. Um, the first thing I want to say is I've in my playlists on my YouTube channel, I've created a separate playlist now for Headquarters in the Saddle videos. So all the Headquarters in the Saddles videos that I've done so far and all the ones that I'll do in the future are now being put into that playlist. So the main series scenarios are, of course, broken up into 4 playlists. The Brigade, Division, Corps, and the Army scenarios. Those are all playing the game regular, not using couriers and not playing from the saddle. And that was basically to teach you guys how the game works, the mechanics, blah blah blah. I've gone on about that ad nauseum. There's also the Grog Toolbar playlist, which is various um, uh, instructional videos about how to actually use the Grog Toolbar and any updates or important updates to the Grog Toolbar. I'll cover in there too. Uh, that can be updated as new updates to the Grog Toolbar come out, but I think they're pretty much done with that. I don't think there'll really be any more updates to the Grog Toolbar, or at least nothing serious. But I leave that playlist open-ended in case I ever need to add stuff to it. And yeah, the newest playlist I've just added is purely for Headquarters in the Saddle videos. There are 4 currently in there, and of course there'll be 5 when I'm done with this video. And then the other thing I wanted to cover is since the beginning of time, well, not since the beginning of time, but since I basically started doing Scourge of War videos, people have asked me to cover the KS mod, which is a big mod that completely overhauls the entire game, the system, how it works, infantry, cavalry, artillery. It's a giant overhaul of the game. And I've shied away from it because I mostly wanted to, again, teach new players the game and basically start with the stock game. The KS mod is almost a completely different game. But I've decided that now that I'm done with the main series and I'm basically just doing videos for fun, and a lot of people have asked me about it, that I am going to go ahead and do a video on the KS mod, and basically explain some of the differences and how it works and what some of the changes to how units work and so forth. And some of the AI enhancements. Now, I am by no means an expert on the KS mod. I know it. I know it pretty well. I've played it a lot, but certainly I'm not the one who designed it, and the guys who play it regularly, 2 or 3 times a week, are certainly the experts at it. But they're not making videos on YouTube. They would be the ones to do it if they were going to, but since they're not, I will cover what I can of the KS mod. I know it well enough, I think, to do a video on it and explain mostly how it works. So yeah, that's just a couple of things I wanted to let you guys know that's coming up. So all right, so last few videos we've been doing some Headquarters in the Saddle. As I've shifted my style of play over to playing from the saddle and really getting the most realistic experience out of the game that you can, um, I've mostly been doing like more higher organization scenarios, division, corps. I don't think I've done an army scenario because that would take a long time, but trust me, I probably will in the future. Who can resist, right? But it occurs to me that I'd never really started hits kind of at the beginning. I think my first hit scenario was a division scenario, and then there were a couple of corps scenarios in there. So I wanted to go back to the beginning, back to the smallest level of command, which is a brigade, and kind of do more of an introduction to Headquarters in the Saddle at the brigade level, because I just kind of jumped into it because I started. Um, I already knew how to play Headquarters in the Saddle, so I just started putting videos up of the scenarios that I wanted to play. And I tend to enjoy playing bigger scenarios more than smaller ones. But smaller brigade scenarios have kind of their own unique set of challenges that you don't see in division or core level scenarios, because a lot of times in division or core level scenarios, you're not really involved in kind of the micro tactical aspect of the battle, because generally what you're doing is issuing orders to subordinate officers, who then issue orders to either their subordinate officers or their battalions if they're brigade commanders. And you sort of leave the micro tactical aspects up to your subordinate commanders, who are controlled by the AI. Uh, in a brigade scenario, however, you don't have any officers below you. You are the lowest level of command in terms of being a brigade commander. So you issue your orders directly to your battalions. And I never really covered that aspect of playing headquarters in the saddle, because I started at much bigger organizations, like I said, division and corps. Um, so I thought to do kind of more of an intro to headquarters in the saddle. I would start with what I consider to be the introductory scenario to the whole game, which is the Emperor's Plan. It's the first scenario in the game. It's green difficulty. It's one of the easiest scenarios in the game. But I also think it's a good way to show how to be involved in more of the micro tactical aspect of the game at the saddle level. So let's scroll down a little bit here. Well, I don't need to read this, do I? You guys it's been up long enough for you guys to read it. So I just want to scroll down to the map. And as you see, we control Bowden's brigade, and we need to go into the woods here in front of the Chateau de Goumont, otherwise known as Hugomont, and clear the woods out of the enemy that's in there, which are basically some foot guards and some various Dutch Belgians and so forth that are kind of under the command of Colonel MacDonald in here. They're mostly small, kind of company-sized detachments, and we're going to go in there with some skirmishers and clear them out. Now, in the second episode of the main series where I covered this scenario, our strategy was basically to encircle the Allied units in the woods with skirmishers and basically kind of close them off like a vice grip. The strategy playing headquarters in the saddle is no different. We're still going to do the same thing. It's just a little slower because you have to deal with couriers, and your view isn't quite as perfect as when you can kind of just maneuver the camera all over the field. So it's not quite as organized, and it takes a little longer to do, but it's basically the same idea. We're still going to try and bring in a lot of skirmisher units and kind of move them in this area, and kind of encircle the woods and kind of close in around the Allied units. And again, we're pretty much just going to use skirmishers. The brigade itself is not really needed for this. It's kind of like using a nuclear weapon to blow up an anthill. You just don't need that much. All right, so let's scroll down a little bit more here. And again, we're commanding Bowden's brigade. We have the 1st Line Regiment and the 3rd Line Regiment. And each one of those consists of 3 battalions, so 6 battalions total. And we need 1,000 points for a major victory. And let's launch it here. All right, so here we are. We are Marshal de Camp Baron Pierre Francois Bowden. That's a name. And we command the 6th Division of, I believe, Bonaparte's division of Ryle's Corps. And here's our courier. It says, Mon General, General Ryle has given us the honor of opening the attack on the Allied right. Clear the enemy of the woods to your front. Send skirmish units ahead to determine the strength of the enemy before you advance. And that is from our division commander, Jerome Bonaparte. All right, so you can see that our forward unit here has already spread off some skirmishers. and he sends us the message, I have split off 3 skirmish units from my regiment, and to unsplit the skirmish units, make sure they're not moving, and you just hit the recall button. I've covered that before. So they're going to start moving forward on their own, and that's fine. We will grab each one of them and take command of them once they get into position here. I believe I'm going to move a little bit further forward here. And rather than get all our skirmisher units in position first and then start advancing like we did in the main series when I first covered this scenario, instead I think we're just going to take command of these guys and start sending them in to engage the enemy kind of right away. And then we'll split off more skirmish units from the unit behind us and just start kind of proliferating them off to the right here. But we're going to get these guys going kind of right away here. Now, it's not really any different than not playing in the saddle. It's just a little more awkward, and because you can't move the camera around too much, and every command has to be sent by a courier. So there's a little bit of a delay between getting everything going, of course. But in terms of the actual strategy, it's really not any different. You know, I'm still kind of pointing and clicking and doing everything the way I normally do. It's just that I can't move the camera around, and everything has kind of a time delay because I have to send couriers to the units. So again, I'm going to wait till this unit starts moving, and then I will TC them. So there they go. So now I'll TC them, but again, a courier has to catch them. And when they're double quicking like this, the courier really doesn't move any faster than they do. So it just has to chase after them until they stop. So he keeps trying to transmit the order, but they keep running ahead of him. So he has to just keep chasing them until they actually stop. So there they go. Now we have them TC'd. And I'm just going to kind of start moving them off to the right here. So, Rob, you're always talking about in headquarters in the saddle, you don't TC, but you're TCing every skirmisher unit here. At a brigade level, it's okay to TC. One of the advantages of TCing units is it tends to avoid a lot of morale issues. TC'd units will just stay in place. They will never retreat unless you actually order them to retreat. They will stand in place until they actually rout. So as long as your units are getting the better of it, and skirmishers in the woods against line units are going to get the better of it, you know, there's no reason to have them on under AI control where they might do something that you don't necessarily want them to do. In a brigade situation where you're only controlling a handful of skirmisher units like this, or even a handful of battalions, I will TC a lot more often, even playing headquarters in the saddle, because you're dealing with a much smaller number of units, and it's even from the saddle, it's not that hard to control with units under take charge and not under AI control. And there, like I said, there are a lot of benefits to micromanaging units, as I've shown you in the main series, versus letting the AI control things. When you're trying to accomplish very specific micro-tactical things, when you're playing division or corps size scenarios, you can't do that. There's too many units and you're only one man on a horse. You just can't control everything to that degree. So you have to kind of delegate control to your AI-controlled subordinates. But in a brigade scenario like this, you really can get away with TCing a lot of stuff. And right now, we're really only dealing with a couple of skirmisher units. Even from the saddle, I can handle that, no problem. And you guys can too. So I'm actually going to bring this other skirmish unit that I just split off and bring them around kind of behind the lines to the right side. I don't want to hit them directly over here because they'll be running through fire and taking casualties for no reason. So I'm going to bring them over here first and then send them over there. And I'm going to start advancing here. Just so I can see what's going on, see how we're progressing. I can already see that some of these Dutch-Belgian troops are retreating. We still have two British units holding out over here on the right, and some Dutch-Belgian troops hanging out over here on the left. So at this point, we will begin squeezing the vice and advancing while engaged. So what this command does is it starts getting the troops moving forward while they're still firing. And as they get closer to the enemy, their fire will become more effective. You can already see they're inflicting much more casualties than they're taking because they're skirmishers in a loose order formation, and on top of that, they're in the woods. And skirmishers just tend to always do really good in the woods. And we're going to place our last skirmisher unit here on the extreme right, and we'll double click them over there. They're still in pretty good shape. And we will have kind of the encirclement complete. So we've already inflicted about 70 casualties. We've taken 5 losses. We're doing pretty good. And we're going to ride over here and see how our left is doing. Our right is advancing. Our center is advancing, and we're going to see if we can get our left advancing too here and kind of choke off the Allied position here. We can see that one of the Allied units on the far right seems to be pulling back. There they go. They're breaking and running. Still got one Allied unit over here, but our troops, our other skirmish unit is moving in, and we will send them orders to advance while engaged as well. And we just want to keep an eye on the courier as he rides through. We want to make sure he actually makes it and doesn't get killed. And we can see our brigade. Now I try to split off another skirmisher group here, but I didn't look at how many men were in that unit. There's only 120 men left, so I can no longer split off any more skirmisher units. And you can see the 2 companies of the British foot guards over here, not engaging us at the moment, but we can see them. And we just want to bring this unit over to kind of cover our flank. So we're dropping a lot of men here. And again, we couldn't split off any more units. So we're just going to actually bring this whole battalion and just bring them over here to cover our left flank. Just in case these bozos start advancing. And we'll kind of just bring them up in here for now. And you can see our couriers riding off. And our skirmishers are continuing to push forward here. We've dropped a lot of these Allied men. They're gonna, you can already see they're backing up. They are just about ready to kick it, and there they go. Losing about half their number there on the ground. And our skirmishers are continuing to close the grip, close the vice grip on them. So we're going to start moving our skirmishers forward now and continue the encirclement here. So as you can see, not much different than how I would do it normally. And because we're dealing with such a small number of units, even being locked to the saddle like this is really not a big impediment to actually controlling your units. So here comes our battalion. We're going to have them deploy in line, kind of right on our flank here. And now we have some more skirmisher units up here, and we're really shooting the hell out of these guys. They're dropping left and right. I think they're the only unit left. And they should be getting ready to kick it any minute now. There's like 5 of them left. There's not too many of them left. So I'm going to head over to the objective and see if I can get a hold on it here. And there we go. We got it. About 10 minutes into the scenario. And I don't want to ride too far away because I still want to be able to see what's going on the left over here, because that's kind of where the only unit left standing is. And they are pulling back. So we will let our skirmishers continue to shoot at them for as long as they can. Now some of these skirmishers have disengaged, and we're just gonna recall them. And you can see all our skirmishers have stopped shooting at this point. So some of them we can start to recall. And again, we get this message about attacking the farmhouse that I'm just going to completely ignore. I covered this in the main series. There's no reason to attack the farmhouse whatsoever. It's almost like a bait. It's like a trap to get you to do something stupid. The objective is here, and you're going to get more than enough points from it. So there's no reason whatsoever to attack the farmhouse. So we're going to start recalling some of our skirmisher units. Not all of them, because we know the British foot guards are still out there. And if they decide to move forward, we want to have some skirmishers out to engage them. Now, because I've recalled a bunch of skirmishers, I no longer have enough men in front of the objective. So I'm actually going to move that main unit that all these skirmishers were detached from and move them by the objective so we can once again start getting points from it. I probably should have brought them over first and then recalled all the skirmishers, but As soon as they get over here, we'll recapture the objective. And here they come. And we can see some Dutch Belgians off there in the Orchid. We can still see there's some Dutch Belgian units out in the front here, and they look like they're coming forward, like they might want some more action. And I'm going to start advancing the Brigade to start moving them into the woods. So here's some more Dutch Belgians, just a little group of them. We're going to send the skirmishers out in front to engage them and shoot them out. And we now have the main unit behind us, so we have the possession of the objective again. And you can see that the British foot guards are advancing. Here they come. So I am going to grab hold of one of these skirmisher units here to intercept them, and we'll place them in the woods and double-quick them so that they can engage the British foot guards here. So the Dutch Belgians are pulling back, and these guys will, in a second here, start engaging the British foot guards here. There they go. And we see the Brigade advancing here. Now, I'm actually going to halt the Brigade because I don't want them to get involved in the fight with the foot guards. Just because line units, they're more likely to take more casualties, and there's no reason for them to get involved. Our skirmishers will handle them. No problem. So for now, I'm just going to kind of halt them where they are. Of course, all these orders have to be transmitted by courier, of course. And now that the Dutch Belgians are gone, I think we can start to shift this other skirmisher unit over to this area so we can have 2 skirmisher units firing at them. So the brigade has halted, and they are close enough that they're shooting at the some of the guard units, but they're not really being engaged by them. They're only a small number of men, so I'm not worried about it. They're not going to really come and get involved, and we're just going to kind of pick them apart with our skirmishers. So before I move the skirmisher unit, I'm just making sure that those Dutch Belgians have actually run back into Giddeyup and are no longer a threat. And we will grab this skirmisher unit and kind of start sending them over so that they can start assisting in shooting the foot guards here. So we'll place them kind of right behind these trees here where they can kind of sharpshoot and pick off the allies. Now, here's one of the battalions that I guess I missed, and they kind of worked their way over here anyway. So we'll TC them and move them back for now. We'll just get them over here. There goes the courier. And once these guys get out of here, then we'll kind of form up the brigade by the objective and so forth. So our skirmishers are doing well. They're holding the foot guards at bay. And as you can see, they're getting ready to turn around and get out of there. They will withdraw into the fort. So yeah, even in headquarters in the saddle, I tend to, at the brigade level, I still tend to TC a lot because TCing just gives you a lot of advantages in terms of micro-tactical control and making sure your units kind of do exactly what you want them to do, which at the brigade level, which is kind of the tactical level here of the game, it's just not that hard to just control a couple of units. You're always close by because you're not dealing with a large number of troops over a large area, and you just don't have much less chance of your troops doing something on their own that you don't want them to do if they are under take charge, because they just follow your orders when they're under take charge. That's the whole point of take charge, is that the AI doesn't interfere. You have complete control over the troops. At the brigade level, you're basically the brigade commander anyway, commanding those troops. So at the brigade level, you don't really need the AI because you're the one commanding those troops anyway. So you might as well just put them under take charge because, as I've often said, there is such a thing as too many cooks in the kitchen. So if you're the one commanding the troops, but the AI can also control the troops, that can cause problems when you have two different entities, yourself and the AI, who may have two different ideas about what to do with troops, conflicting with each other. So at the brigade level, I just tend to always kind of take command and control the troops myself. If I want to move a whole formation like the brigade, then I'll take them off take charge. Now, one of the interesting things is if you use the TC off all subordinates function, That doesn't require couriers. So I just took all these guys off of TC, and there was no couriers. They just instantly go off of take charge. So even in the saddle, if you take command off of all subordinates, it just happens instantly. You don't need couriers. You do need couriers if you're going to take charge of them, even if you're going to TC all subordinates at once. Then that still takes couriers. So I'm just going to move closer to the objective here and deploy my brigade in column of line, which is basically just lines one behind the other. I kind of just line them up like this, and here they come. And there's also something called a shout radius when you're playing headquarters in the saddle. If units are, and I'm sorry, I don't remember what the exact distance is, but if units are close enough to you, and I don't know, it might be 20, 30 yards, I'm not sure exactly what the distance is, then if you give them orders and they're that close to you, you don't even use couriers because they're considered to be in like earshot, and you can just kind of yell at them, and the orders are considered to be transmitted instantly because you're not actually sending out a courier. They're so close that you're just yelling at them, hey, dummies, move this way, you know, move here, go here, do this, you know, you're kind of considered to be in earshot of them. So once again, the Allies have tucked tail between their legs and run back into their fortified farmhouse. And we are just deploying our brigade in the nice little column of line formation here, which is very pretty to look at. And we're just going to sit here for the last 10 minutes of the scenario and rack up some points from the objective. So not really any different in terms of the tactics and the strategy that we used in the main series. It's just not quite as quick in terms of actually setting everything up because you can't just zip around the field on the camera. And you have the couriers, of course, that certainly add a bit of a time delay, but it's not as noticeable as in higher organizations of command because generally speaking, as the brigade commander, you're kind of right there amongst your troops anyway. So your couriers are most likely not going to travel over a very large distance. So they tend to transmit you still tend to transmit your orders fairly quickly. The biggest difference of playing from the saddle at the brigade level is probably not unit control because you're still going to TC your units and the couriers just aren't traveling over a large enough distance for the time delay to really be a factor. So the biggest difference is just the camera control, the fact that you're locked to your officer. So in many ways, after learning the game regularly, going to brigade scenarios if you want to play headquarters in the saddle is probably a pretty good place to start because not too much changes from the way you've learned to play the game normally. The biggest thing that you'll first notice is, of course, the camera and being locked to it and not being able to just kind of zip around the battlefield and see everything from any angle you may want. So I'm just laying my troops down here. Because it will protect them from the Allied artillery fire. They'll still take a few losses, I think, you know, but it does help to protect them from the enemy artillery. So yeah, I kind of just wanted to do this as kind of like, I probably should have done this as my first headquarters in the saddle video. You know, but I wasn't really. My headquarters in the saddle videos aren't really meant to be like tutorials. Really, I'm really just doing them because, you know, as I keep growing and playing the game, I have to say that this is more and more. Headquarters in the saddle is becoming my favorite way to play the game. It really is kind of the truest experience you can get out of the game in terms of kind of really experiencing what it's like to be in command of troops on a Napoleonic battlefield and kind of dealing with all the the fog of war and the restrictions that you had in terms of, you didn't have radios and uh, so it's kind of like, kind of the most authentic experience you can get out of the game. And the more I do it, the more I like it. And doesn't mean the AI always does things that I would do. Certainly my tactics that I invented for playing the game normally are just far superior than anything the AI would ever do. But as I finessed those tactics and the formations and strategies, they really became like too effective and too dominant, to the point where it was like, it's just, once you really know those things that I know about the game and how to construct those formations, and it really becomes like you can't lose, because it's unfair. So playing in the saddle and playing with kind of maximum fog of war with couriers, and especially at higher levels of organization, where you're trusting the AI to carry out your orders, it really balances things out in terms of actually playing against the AI, and I think it gives you a much truer experience of what it was like to be a commander, because you didn't in reality you didn't have the kind of control over your troops that you have in this game when you play without couriers and you play with a free camera and you can just point and click and you take command of your units and they do exactly what you want when you want. That's a fun way to play if you're trying to win and you really, really want to win, because it gives you a lot of advantages that the AI doesn't have. But it's really not as authentic, I think, as playing from the saddle is. So the more I do it, the more I'm enjoying it. There's always a certain amount of uncertainty when playing from the saddle, because you just never really know for sure how the AI is going to carry out your orders. Are your commanders going to do good, or are they going to do bad? Are they going to get themselves killed and replaced with crappy officers? You just really never know what's going to happen, because so much is kind of out of your control. At the brigade level like this, more is in your control than at higher levels of organization, because obviously as a brigade commander, you can still control your troops and make them do kind of exactly what you want. But that's why brigade commanders were kind of out there in front to control the troops and issue orders and make sure everything didn't degenerate into a brawl for all. So here we have some panoramic shots of various troops of Ryle's Corps, all kind of set up along the French line here. And we're kind of peering through the trees here and taking a little peek at them. And you can see there's quite a lot of them. Can't see everything because they're kind of obscured by the woods here at this point that we're in. But I'm giving you just a little panoramic shot, and I think we'll come to Hugomont in a second here. And yeah, there's Hugomont. So yeah, being deep in the woods, we can't see a lot of the troops that are out here, but we can see some of the ones that are over here. And we have our troops just laying down and taking cover. They have taken a few artillery losses. I think we've lost another 11 men or so, but they're not taking a huge beating. So yeah, a couple of our units have taken some artillery losses, but nothing serious. You can see artillery shells kind of bursting on the ground. These are cannonball impacts right here. So certainly some shells have hit close to us here. And we're just sitting here racking up points from the objective here, which is always kind of the end result of the scenario. And we got about 1,800 points. Again, this is not much more than a skirmish. We took 33 losses and we inflicted about 144 losses on the enemy. So, not a big engagement, but like I said, this is kind of the introductory scenario to the game, and the big point of the scenario is to give you the chance to use skirmishers, which were new at the time Scourge of War Waterloo came out. So the scenario was kind of the introduction to that. So we're just sitting here chilling. So yeah, I just wanted to do kind of a brigade headquarters in the saddle scenario. I don't think I'm going to cover every single brigade scenario because I'm not really interested in covering every single scenario again from the saddle. But I did want to get in. I did want to get in one for sure, just to kind of show you it's more of a visceral, hands-on control when you're playing as a brigade commander. You still tend to control your units very directly. And we're about to, there we go, nice even 2,000 points there. And there we go with our major victory, and even 2,000 points. We took 38 casualties, so I guess another cannonball hit us at the very end there. And we inflicted 144 casualties on the enemy. And like I said, I just wanted to do kind of a brigade headquarters in the saddle video, just to have one up there, so you guys could see what brigade command from the saddle is like. I may do another one down the line at the brigade level, because this scenario it's almost like not even a brigade level, because you don't even really use the brigade. You're just using a couple of skirmisher units. But I wanted to do this one because it's pretty much the easiest brigade scenario in the game, and you're only handling just a couple of units at a time, and it's really just skirmisher units. So if you're new to headquarters in the saddle, I definitely recommend this being kind of the first scenario you try, and kind of handle as few units as you need to get the job done, because generally speaking, you could clear the woods out with just skirmisher units. So the game splits off three for you right at the beginning. You're going to have three skirmishers that the game just splits off for you automatically. So all you have to do is split off another 2 or 3 skirmisher units from that front battalion there, and just kind of send them in the woods, and they will clear out the allied infestation in here, and then all you got to do is, once they're all gone, is move your officer to the objective, and then just use the formation button to bring your whole brigade in here and occupy the objective. So it's a good introductory scenario to playing headquarters in the saddle, because even though you're the big drastic change, of course, is the camera view, the fact that you're stuck to the officer. The rest of the changes are a little more minimal. The courier ranges aren't that long in terms of the distances they cover, so the time delay is not huge, and the strategy and the tactics are not any different than what you would do not playing in the saddle. It's a little more awkward to control at first. But you could still TC your units to get them to do exactly what you want. And I just kind of wanted to have an introductory hits video. I probably should have done this first, but like I said, I'm not really doing these hits videos as a tutorial the way I did the main series. I'm just doing it because it's kind of the way I'm most enjoying playing the game now. In many ways, it feels more honest than kind of the way I used to play. But playing the way I used to play was not a waste of time by any means, because that's how you learn how the game works. That's how you learn what the mechanics do, how the mechanics of the game work. And without going through all the time I spent studying the game by playing that way, I wouldn't know all the things that I know about the game if I just played this way, because a lot of that stuff you don't need to know just to play headquarters in the saddle, because a lot of headquarters in the saddle is just issuing orders to subordinates at anything higher than brigade level. But you'd be surprised how many times when you're playing headquarters in the saddle that some little useful bit of knowledge that I picked up or learn from playing the game the other way, not headquarters in the saddle, turns up and ends up giving me some advantage. So uh, I still believe it's worth learning the game normally first before delving into headquarters in the saddle. In some ways, headquarters in the saddle is much more advanced than playing the way I play. It's certainly much more authentic. And in some ways, it's not as advanced because there's so many of the game mechanics that you actually don't even need to know to play headquarters in the saddle. I mean, as long as you know how to select officers and issue orders on the command map for destinations and how to change officer stances and so forth. I mean, that's pretty much a lot of times all you need to know, and the AI will do the rest. But you're also then not learning a lot about how the game works. So yeah, I'm just kind of babbling now. I don't know why. I love to babble sometimes. Um, so yeah, we got our major victory, and this is kind of a introductory to headquarters in the saddle for some of you guys that may be looking to get into it and have just felt that some of the division and core videos that I've put up are a little too overwhelming to start with, and want to start with something smaller like this. Okay, yeah, like I said, guys, I am planning on doing something in the near future on the KS mod. And that kind of goes in line with playing headquarters in the saddle because, in my opinion, the chaos mod was designed and shines most in headquarters in the saddle. It can be played without it, but I think that most of the changes that were made and the enhancements to the AI that were made in the KS mod generally they go to serve enhancing headquarters in the saddle play the most. So that's pretty much how I'm going to do my video on the KS mod. It will probably also be from the saddle. All right, guys, that's it for this video, and I hope you guys dig it and gives you a kind of more of a smaller take on headquarters in the saddle. Take it easy until next time, fellas.